whoever created history, whoever writes history, controls history. So the Europeans, by creating history, controlling history, can write himself in history to make himself look good.
The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers own Egyptology. Okay? Now, what's very clear to me, that the Rothschild, that right there is, I think, is the father, Nathan Rothschild. You understand what I'm saying? Who is a Zionist, okay? A Talmudic, and if you don't know nothing about the Talmud, then you better run and get you some goddamn information in there where they talk about the black race as if they was dogs. You understand what I'm saying? So you know damn well once you understand what a Talmudic Jew is, you understand what they feel about black people. Because all you have to do is go in the Talmud and see what they think about you. So I don't want nobody to think that this Talmudic Zionist Jew got anything good to say about black people at all, okay? You see right there when I say Talmudic Zionist, and you see that even though he dressed up in that top hat, that when he come up out of that top hat, he go right into the uniform of every other Talmudic Jew, okay? Now, this is one of his sons. I think this might have been Solomon. I don't know exactly. You can see him with his hand in his jacket to show you that they also Freemasons. You see, we got to lay this shit out. You got to, before you look, you got to read, as Dr. Ben said, you got to research the researchers. You got to look at their prejudices and their biases. You just gonna let anybody hand you some information and you ain't looking at the prejudices and biases of these people? So not only is he's a Zionist, he's a Freemason. You understand? We all know that the Rothschilds was instrumental in setting up Israel, funding Israel. You could go right now to Israel and the Knesset, the Supreme Court of Israel, and a lot of their major buildings were funded by the Rothschilds. So they were Zionists, and Zionists is those that created a nation. You understand? That were fighting for the nation of Israel. So Rothschild was very fundamental because he was one of the ones that put the money up. You understand what I'm saying? So he the King Zionist, okay? And as you see, the Rothschild in his Masonic stance, or the hidden hand, then you come right over here and you see Champollion and Napoleon are Freemasons. And we all understand that Freemasonry, the basis of Freemasonry, modern Freemasonry, was what they stole about Egypt, even though they didn't understand a damn thing. You understand what I'm saying? They updated their Freemason rites based on what they found in ancient Egypt. So right there, you got you got a jealous fraternal organization who looking at the oldest fraternal organization on the earth, and now they trying to undermine that organization. You understand what I'm saying? By saying that they have deciphered if you decipher the wisdom, then now you the sole controller. You are the sole controller at this time. So you got to also understand that Egyptology is a Freemason organization. That a lot of those Egyptologists are Freemasons. They're also Jews. You understand what I'm saying? And once you understand the basis of both organizations, you already know the interpretation that you're going to get from these people. You also see to the right is his brother. You understand? Champollion brother all the way to the right, okay? And so you can see here that he's step for step, just like all the other races, Freemasons. You see him with his hidden hand. And when you got a hidden hand, that means you hiding the truth. Okay, and so we're here today to expose the truth. And see, he's right in fellowship with all the other, George Washington, Joseph Stalin, goddamn Karl Marx. You understand what I'm saying? So we know what background he's from. You see what I'm saying? And to understand that a lot of his teachers were also Jews. He had Jewish teachers. You see what I'm saying? So this is, and he even had Arab teachers. So I don't want nobody to believe that this French white boy, Champollion, is the Christ of Egyptology, which is a religion. And this is, Egyptology stands on Champollion. And so once you destroy Champollion, every book on your goddamn shelf that got to do with the history of Egypt, with Egyptology, with the Medunata or anything, is you got to throw that shit in the garbage. You see what I'm saying? So goes Champollion, so goes Egyptology. And so this is the Rothschild, who owns the Rosetta Stone. Right, that's right. We're talking about the Rothschilds who own the British Museum. Damn near own all of London and damn near own all the major damn banking systems on the goddamn globe. Okay, I'm gonna get off into it. Verifiable fact that the Rothschilds was trustees of the damn of the British Museum and funded many other Egyptologists in the world, funded them. I got to verify, if it wasn't the Rothschilds, it was the goddamn Rockefeller. So when you're dealing with Freemasonry, you got to understand that the Jews run Freemasonry. Okay? The Jews run Freemasonry. So the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Pennsylvania, you see right there that all of, see, this is their understanding of the Madunat. They don't see you in it. They believe that the great white race is responsible for ancient Egypt, as I went over yesterday. If you wasn't here yesterday, then go back and watch that. Okay? And so they're going there and you know, they understand, see how they didn't Egyptianize Freemasonry. See, when Napoleon went up in Egypt, then they was, you know, they started, you know, they had what they call Egypt mania. That's when they start Egypt everything. Obelisks for tombstones. They having Egyptian style mausoleums all through the damn cemetery. See, they went Egypt crazy. Even, you know, grinding up mummies. You understand what I'm saying? They was even stealing mummies out of Egypt, using them for goddamn fuel for the goddamn trains and shit. Steam engines. This is what they thought about the ancestors. You understand what I'm saying? That they would grind them up. They used to grind them up and drink the damn mummy. They call it mumia, until all they silly asses start dying. You're going to go get a goddamn 2,000-year-old mummy, grind it up, sprinkle it. They was using it for, you know, salt and pepper and shit, sprinkling it on their food and shit, putting it in their drinks and shit, thinking it would give them some type of eternal life and shit. And so when we talking about who owns the Rosetta Stone, we talking about the Rothschild. How is that? See, we talking, and so we talking some good shit today. Okay, we got to talk about who funding this shit. Because them Egyptologists got the right with the funders who cashing their ass out is telling them the right. I got books by Wallace Budge, where if you open up that Osiris Resurrection, the Osirian drama, he gives a shout out to Rothschild. He said, goddamn it, the Rothschild gave him permission to write the goddamn book. And that's because Wallace Budge was the curator of the Egyptian section of the British Museum. And anything that he wrote, he had to get permission from the Jew to write it. So that's the Oriental Institute of Chicago. And that's where they got that the Nubian artifacts right there in the Oriental Institute of Chicago, and they kept that shit in the basement, showing that Nubia was the mother of ancient Egypt, had all the tombs, and had all the artifacts, and motherfucker went down there in the basement and they had the shit hid because they did not want to tell the truth, because the majority of them motherfuckers was trying to teach that Egypt was a white race. I'm sick of y'all. Okay, y'all busted today. Oriental Institute. Now here go another. I'm dropping bombs now. I'm dropping bombs now. I got to drop them. Got to drop them now. The Oriental Institute, established in 1919, is the University of Chicago's interdisciplinary research center for ancient Near Eastern, Orient studies and archaeology museum. It was founded for the university by Professor James Henry Breasted with funds donated by John D. Rockefeller Jr. I'll be damned. This motherfucker that financed the largest fucking studies on fucking Medunata, and he founded the Orient. This motherfucker owned Egyptology. Okay, this is Wallace Budge. Now, everybody got Wallace Budge books because Wallace Budge was the most published of any, as far as books. He's the most published Egyptologist of all time. You understand what I'm saying? He got damn near a book on everything, and he don't know shit, but he did write as one of the only Egyptologists that the Egyptians was from the South. And they hung his ass out to dry for that shit too. You understand what I'm saying? Flinders Petrie got on his weak ass. You understand what I'm saying? Because he taught that. You see? But he still had that Caucasian, supremacy ideal about himself. You see what I'm saying? He began to change his motherfucking viewpoint. The pressure was on his ass, okay? But he was an English Egyptologist, Orientalist, there you go again, who worked for the British Museum and published numerous works on ancient Near East. He made numerous trips to Egypt and the Sudan on behalf of the British Museum, right there where the Rosetta Stone is, to buy antiquities and to help it build its collection of cuneiform. Listen here. Budge entered the British Museum in 1883 in the recently renamed Department of Egyptian and Assyrian Antiquities. Initially appointed to the Assyrian section, he soon transferred to the Egyptian section. See how all these Orientalists are now becoming Egyptologists? And you wonder why they always trying to explain Egypt by way of Sumer. See, this is why it's happening. Somebody got to tell y'all that. All of the fucking Egyptologists is also Orientalists. What's key is when Wallace Budge was the curator at the British Museum, Lionel Walter Rothschild was the trustee, and they still the trustees of the British Museum. So we talking about the Rothschild, we talking about the Rockefellers. The Rothschilds own the British Museum, okay? We talking about the Rothschild. And when if you get the book, the Osirian Drama, Volume 1 and 2 by Wallace Budge, when you open up Volume 1 in the dedication, he dedicates the book to Lionel Walter Rothschild and stated in that book that Lionel Walter Rothschild gave him the permission to write the motherfucking book. So that lets you know right there that Wallace Budge was an agent of the Rothschild family, okay? And whatever he wrote about the Egyptians being from the south, from Sudan and Central East Africa, he began to change his fucking view when Lionel Walter Rothschild took over. We can't have that. And I can back that up right here. Rothschild was a member of many scientific societies. Along in collaboration with his staff, he published many papers and monographs on biological subjects. His museum held the largest collection of natural history specimens ever assembled by one man. This motherfucker sending motherfuckers all over the world to get shit. You see, and he had the biggest collection of natural history specimens ever assembled by one man. In 1932, the bird collection was sold because of a shortage of funds. That's at the British Museum, to the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. Rothschild willed his museum and his unique library to the British Museum, London, of which he was a trustee. Okay, let's go down there, and up under trustee, you'll see Rothschild was awarded an honorary degree by the University of Gießen in 1898 and was elected a trustee of the British Museum in 1899 and was elected a fellow of Royal Society in 1911. What is a trustee? An individual person or member of a board given control or powers of administration of property in trust with a legal obligation to administer it solely for the purposes specified. He was the administrator while Wallace Budge was there. And that's why he said he was given permission to write the fucking books on ancient Egypt that he wrote. Okay then. So everywhere we look, you see Rockefeller, you see the Germans, you see the Rothschild, you see the Jews.
And you know it's serious when these same media outfits are spending millions of dollars on a PR campaign to try to convince you they're fair and balanced, when they're some of the most ignorant and racist people giving that type of mentality a safe haven.
Scientific theories can have an influence on society, be it what is healthy to eat, whether some surgeries help or hinder, or even whether if the earth is flat. The theory does not need to be proven right, as even an idea on shaky ground can influence others' actions. One such theory would probably have one of the largest effects on the 20th century, as it would be used as a disgusting excuse for some of the world's worst atrocities. Following the scientific theory would lead to genocide, segregation, and social racial laws that, by modern standards, leave a disgusting taste in the mouth, a convenient excuse to allow unacceptable actions by individuals and governments alike, and even in contemporary times, the subject filters its way into modern-day society. It has mostly been used as an open door for misuse, scientific racism and tyranny. Today we're looking at one of the most dangerous scientific ideas, especially when used to prove prejudice and be used as an excuse for callousness. The theory is of eugenics and its long-reaching effects in the 19th and 20th century. Welcome to the dark side of science. Our story starts with a very famous book by a much revered scientist, The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. The work was released in 1859 and is widely regarded as the foundation of evolutionary biology. The new field of research would, over the next few decades, split into many different disciplines as evolution became more widely accepted. Many scientists looked to develop Darwin's ideas. One such person was one of his own cousins, Francis Galton. Galton was fascinated by his cousin's work and sought out to research variation in human development. He started to look at different aspects of human variation, covering anything from mental ability to height and from facial images to fingerprint patterns. Galton combined Darwin's theory of evolution with a concept of heredity to develop his new idea. The concept of genes came from Gregor Mendel's when, in 1865, the basic laws of heredity were discovered. His next book would coin the actual term eugenics. Although this was his first use of the word, as seen in Hereditary Genius, Galton had already been developing its main tenets, but had yet to name it. His book, Inquiries into Human Faculty and its Development, would first use the term eugenics, which opened up saying, "This book's intention is to touch on various topics, more or less connected with that of a cultivation of race, or as we might call it, eugenic questions, and to present the results of several of my own separate investigations." He devised a plan that would give marks for a person's preferable family traits, and as such, that society should reward early marriage between families of high rank via provision of monetary incentives. In his book, he pointed out the tendency of British high society of late marriages between eminent people, which resulted in less of an average physical size of their children. He would flesh out his term definition in his 1908 book, Memories of My Life, stating that the official definition of eugenics as the study of agencies under social control that may improve or impair the racial qualities of future generations, either physically or mentally. The field still focused on selective breeding, much like with animals, through the means of financial encouragement. These ideas did not particularly take off in Galton's native UK, but they did in other parts of the world, most notably in the United States in the early stages of the 20th century. Let's summarise Galton's idea. It is split into two parts, positive and negative eugenics. The former being the promotion of good traits through encouragement of high-achieving individuals having children, and the latter being discouraging people with undesirable traits such as mental illnesses or any other handicap from having children. This second form of the theory would be the claimed justification for multiple human rights issues and ultimately genocide. Now let's look at the propagation of the field in the early 20th century. Eugenic legislation began in the USA, with Indiana becoming the first state to enact sterilization legalization in 1907, followed by California and Washington in 1909. Davenport would release in 1911 one of his most famous books, Heredity in Relation to Eugenics, and this writing would be a massive influence on the early 20th century eugenics movement. The book posited that many human traits were genetically inherited, and that it would therefore be possible to selectively breed people for desirable traits to improve the human race. So much was the success of the book that it was used as a text for medical schools. In the early days of the American eugenics movement, a number of financial backers sought to support Davenport by funding several foundations. One such was the Race Betterment Foundation, created in 1914 by John Harvey Kellogg. Does that name sound familiar? Well, if you've ever been down a cereal aisle of a supermarket, then you'll know what I mean. And yes, it's the same person. The foundation was created from Kellogg's fears of what he perceived as race degeneracy. Davenport also found funding from the Carnegie Institution, Rockefeller Foundation, and the Harriman Railroad Fortune. In 1911, the Carnegie Institution supported a preliminary report of the Committee of the Eugenic Selection of the American Breeders Association to study and report on the best practical means for cutting off the defective germ plasm of the human population. Back in London, a new eugenics organisation was founded in 1912, named the Permanent International Eugenics Committee. It was a continuation of the first International Eugenics Congress. Interestingly, the first Congress was presided over Leonard Darwin, Charles Darwin's son, at the University of London, and was a global venue for scientists, politicians and social leaders to plan and discuss the application of programs to improve human heredity in the early 20th century. It focused on issues including human heredity, race differences, regulation of reproduction and eugenics. You see, eugenics found more fertile ground in the USA. There was a fear that non-Anglo-Saxon people were genetically inferior and thus water down the gene pool. Obviously, this is untrue, but eugenics was the vehicle in which racist ideologies could travel.
And you know it's serious when these same media outfits are spending millions of dollars on a PR campaign to try to convince you they're fair and balanced, when they're some of the most ignorant and racist people giving that type of mentality a safe haven.
This is Amelia Edwards, okay? And she went to Egypt, you understand, on some goddamn tour of Egypt, and she fell in love with Egypt, so they say, and she wanted to start a society to help preserve the ancient artifacts of Egypt. And so the name of the society was the Egyptian Exploration Society, which was started in 1882. Now, listen, they list her as an Egyptologist, even though she never went to school for nothing. They say she was homeschooled. So she never had no education of higher learning from any fucking university, but yet and still, they give her the title of Egyptologist. Now listen, the chair, now this is a chair, okay? A chair was founded for the Egyptian Exploration Society on the death of Amelia Edwards, okay, in 1892, who bequeathed her collection of Egyptian antiquities to the University College London, okay, together with a sum of £2,500 to found an Edwards Chair of Egyptology. Her protege, William Matthew Flinders Petrie, was the first to take the chair. Now, Flinders, they call him Professor Sir William Matthew Flinders Petrie, who is a professor of Egyptology, never went to school nowhere. He was given his title of professor by Amelia Edwards, who hadn't been to no goddamn school either. So goddamn it, these people is bestowing degrees on their goddamn self. Do y'all understand? These people never went to no school. Matthew Flinders Petrie was taught at home. See, that's their way of saying the motherfucker ain't been to school. He was taught at home. We know that people are taught at home today, but let it be known, these people is holding degrees, okay? These people is holding degrees. You get degrees at college. How the fuck is you got a degree in Egyptology and you was taught at the crib, okay? That's just a motherfucking question that must be asked, okay? And this motherfucker went on, Sir Francis, Flinders Petrie, who's all the way to the right, okay? He was in a partnership with Sir Francis Galton, the founder of Eugenics, who is Sir Francis Galton is the cousin of Charles Darwin, okay? Sir Francis Galton, who Mary Sanger, with her racist ass, started Planned Parenthood in the United States of America, okay? A system to destroy African people. You understand what I'm saying? To destroy a people who they deem feeble-minded, you know, an ape-like section of the human race. And so they created eugenics to fundamentally get rid of black people in the United States, where Darwin came up with this evolution that the more superior of the species will advance on. Eugenics was saying, we're not going to wait on nature. We are institutionalized eugenics to help nature. You know, we'll quicken the shit up. We'll come up with some systematic, institutionalized rules to get rid of black people, where they was putting all type of diseases in the blood, sterilizing the men and the women. This is what they was doing. So this is eugenics, and goddamn Flinders Petrie was a partner to Sir Francis Galton at UCLA. Okay, he was sending mummies from Egypt to UCLA to Sir Francis Galton, who was continuing to come up with this niggas is close to monkeys and all of this shit. Flinders Petrie was right in on eugenics, right in on the very system of Planned Parenthood in America, right there in the racist goddamn cartel of white supremacists in Britain and in America. Okay, so right there you see Egyptology is married in many instances to eugenics. Okay? Do you understand that? Go look the shit up. Sir William Flinders Petrie was a partner to Sir Francis Galton. And Sir Francis Galton motherfucking contracted Flinders Petrie to write books for him in reference to eugenics. And so that's your Egyptology.
See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. You have to understand that.
In this segment, Dr. Diop discusses a scheme designed to, well, let's take a look.
This is a picture of the Piltdown Man, and it is to demonstrate to you the lengths to which certain anthropologists have gone to establish their theories. The Piltdown Man was created by a British anthropologist in 1912 by the name of
Downson. C'est un géologue.
A geologist, I'm sorry. He was a geologist, Mr. Downson. He fabricated by piece this fake fossil.
Il l'a enfoui dans les sables du Sussex en Angleterre.
He dug in the dirt in Sussex in England.
Yeah. Vous voyez bien, regardez bien, vous verrez qu'il a le front haut comme un homme moderne. Il est comme nous. Il a les yeux et un grand front.
Like modern man, he has eyes and he has the forehead as modern man does.
Mais vous voyez, regardez sa mâchoire. Sa mâchoire est une mâchoire de singe, d'orang-outan, avec les deux canines. Regardez les deux canines, c'est une mâchoire de singe.
You can see that his mandible, I think it's called,
yes,
is that of a monkey.
Yes.
And his canines,
yes,
are that of a monkey. From this fabrication grew a theory called the pre-sapien theory, which was manufactured to establish that this man was the predecessor of modern man.
Yeah, et que donc l'homme est né en Europe.
And that, in fact, man had his origins or was born in Europe.
Et particulièrement en Angleterre.
And especially in England.
Et vous avez ici des défenseurs, je ne sais pas si je peux les citer, mais il y a des anthropologues américains qui ont épousé cette thèse-là et nous savons aujourd'hui qu'elle est fausse.
And there are American anthropologists who took this theory as their own and defended it, and we know today that it is false.
Piltdown, a quaint village in England, was hailed as the missing link between apes and humans.
A flashlight beam plays over a sketch of ape-like humans.
It was named Piltdown Man. Later, it would be called a forgery and set off a storm of scandal.
The scientific world was in an uproar. The public was scandalized. Were monkeys being made out of the scientists?
Accusations of fraud struck at the heart of the most important questions in science. Who we are, and where did we come from? If it were a hoax, how had it gone unnoticed for so long?
Egotism, pride, ambition, rivalry, these things affect even scientific judgments.
It's a vicious hoax. It was a terrible thing to do. It really was a horrible, nasty, vicious piece of work.
A man buries a bone.
Over the past 50 years, many suspects have been accused. From England's most respected scientists of the day to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes. But the identity of the Piltdown hoaxer has remained a mystery.
Now, the oldest find in Europe, the so-called Piltdown Man, proved to be a fake.
See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. You have to understand that. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through.
And you know it's serious when these same media outfits are spending millions of dollars on a PR campaign to try to convince you they're fair and balanced, when they're some of the most ignorant and racist people giving that type of mentality a safe haven.
See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. The Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through.
Let me ask you then, things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and well, let's deal with them, and then I want to go on to, because these are evidence, supposedly primary evidence that support the antiquity of, say, the Old Testament and the Torah and something like that. They try to show that these things went back into antiquity, so they have Dead Sea Scrolls and supposedly papyri and things of that nature that have parts of the Old Testament and so forth on it that will take it back to antiquity.
You can't, the Dead Sea Scrolls are 20th century European fakes. Okay?
They didn't really exist.
Only when the Europeans created them. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. You have to understand that. These Dead Sea Scrolls, supposedly, these Dead Sea Scrolls, they were found in 1947. 1 year prior to the creation of the illegal state called Israel. Very, very convenient. Okay? Dead Sea Scrolls are 20th century European fakes. Okay?
They didn't really exist.
Only when the Europeans created them. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. You have to understand that. These Dead Sea Scrolls, supposedly, these Dead Sea Scrolls, they were found in 1947. 1 year prior to the creation of the illegal state called Israel. Very, very convenient. Okay? So, whoever created history, whoever writes history, controls history. So the Europeans, by creating history, controlling history, can write himself in history to make himself look good. You see? So, everybody know, or should know, the history of the Europeans is based off of savagery. They were uncivilized savages. I'm not saying this to degrade the Europeans. This is his record. So today, with history, he can write himself and make himself look good, because he created the subject called history. See, the Europeans can take anything and make it look old. They got the chemicals to do that. And of course, you know, they got the institutions to disseminate these lies through. You have to understand that.